The space station Nexus Prime floated in the darkness between two worlds. It was a meeting place, a neutral ground where humans and Valorians could talk without the threat of war. The great conflict had ended 3 years ago, and both sides were still learning how to live in peace. Nathan Cole stood by the window of his small room and watched the stars. He was 34 years old, a logistics officer from a small town in Kansas. He had joined the diplomatic corps, not because he wanted adventure, but because he believed that people, even alien people, could learn to understand each other. His mother had always told him that patience was the greatest gift a person could give. A knock came at his door. Nathan opened it to find Commander Lisa Park standing in the hallway. Her face was serious, which was not unusual for her. "Cole, you have been selected for a special assignment," she said. Nathan nodded. "What kind of assignment?" "The Valorians have requested a human for their cultural exchange program. They specifically asked for someone from your department." Nathan felt a small warning in his mind. The Valorians did not do anything without a reason, and their reasons were rarely good for humans. During the war, they had looked down on humanity. They called humans weak, short-lived, and primitive. Even now, after humans had proven themselves in battle, many Valorians still held those beliefs. "Who will I be working with?" Nathan asked. Commander Park paused. That pause told Nathan everything he needed to know. "Princess Kalith Varana," she finally said. Nathan had heard the name before. Everyone on the station had heard the name. Princess Kalith was the daughter of the Valorian Emperor, and she was famous for one thing: she was impossible. Stories about her had spread across the station like fire. She had driven away 14 attendants from different species. Some had quit within days. Others had lasted weeks before breaking down. One attendant from the Morellian people had reportedly wept for 3 hours before begging to be sent home. "The Valorians are setting us up," Nathan said quietly. "Yes," Commander Park agreed. "High Commander Zoroth himself made the request. He wants to humiliate us. When you fail, he will use it as proof that humans cannot handle Valorian culture." Nathan thought about this for a long moment. He could refuse. No one would blame him. But if he refused, someone else would be sent. And they would face the same impossible situation. "I will do it," Nathan said. Commander Park looked at him with something that might have been respect or might have been pity. "You understand what you are walking into?" "I understand that someone taught that princess to act the way she does," Nathan said. "And I understand that no one has ever tried to show her something different." The next morning, Nathan was escorted to the royal section of the station. The Valorian guards looked at him with amusement. They were tall, with silver blue skin and eyes that glowed faintly in the dim light. To them, Nathan was nothing more than entertainment. High Commander Zoroth met him at the entrance to the princess's quarters. He was an older Valorian with scars on his face from the war. His smile was cold. "Human," Zoroth said, "I hope you understand the honor being given to you. You will serve Princess Kalith in all things. You will answer to her every need. You will not complain. You will not argue. And you will not fail." "I understand," Nathan said. "Good. Because when you fail, and you will fail, I will personally make sure that your superiors know exactly how weak your species truly is." Nathan said nothing. He had learned long ago that some people wanted a reaction, and the best way to disappoint them was to give them silence. The doors to the princess's quarters opened, and Nathan stepped inside. The room was large and beautiful, filled with Valorian art and strange plants that glowed with soft light. But Nathan barely noticed any of it. His attention was fixed on the figure standing by the window. Princess Kalith Varana turned to face him. She was beautiful, even by human standards. Her skin was the same silver blue as the other Valorians, but lighter, almost like moonlight. Her eyes were violet, bright and sharp. Her white hair fell past her shoulders like water, but there was no warmth in her face, only cold judgment. "So," she said, her voice carrying easily across the room, "they have sent me a human." Nathan bowed his head slightly, a gesture of respect. "My name is Nathan Cole. I am here to serve you, Princess." Caleth picked up a ceremonial cup from the table beside her. It was made of crystal, probably worth more than everything Nathan owned. She looked at it for a moment, then threw it directly at his head. Nathan moved just enough to let it pass. The cup shattered against the wall behind him. "Leave," Caleth commanded. "I did not ask for a human, and I do not want one. Go back to your commanders and tell them to send someone else. Someone who is not an insult to my position." Nathan bent down and picked up one of the larger pieces of the broken cup. He walked calmly to a small table and set it down carefully. "What would you like for breakfast, Princess?" he asked. Caleth stared at him. For a moment, something flickered in her violet eyes. Confusion, perhaps, or surprise. No one had ever responded to her anger with such calm. "Did you not hear me?" she demanded. "I told you to leave." "I heard you," Nathan said. "But I was assigned to serve you, and I take my duties seriously. So I will ask again. What would you like for breakfast?" Caleth's hands clenched into fists. "You are either very stupid or very brave, human." "My mother always said I was a little of both," Nathan replied. For a long moment, the princess said nothing. Then she turned back to the window, her back rigid with anger. "Get out of my sight," she said quietly. "And do not expect to last the week." Nathan bowed again and walked to the door. As he stepped into the hallway, he allowed himself a small smile. She had not thrown anything else at him. That was progress. Behind him, still standing at the window, Caleth Varana felt something she had not felt in a very long time. She felt curious. The first week was difficult. Nathan had expected it to be difficult, but the reality was worse than anything he had imagined. Caleth woke him at strange hours with impossible demands. She wanted food that did not exist on the station. She wanted her room arranged in ways that made no sense, then demanded it be changed back an hour later. She screamed at him for walking too loudly, for breathing too loudly, for existing in her presence. On the third day, she destroyed her own quarters. Nathan arrived in the morning to find furniture overturned, art shattered on the floor, and the glowing plants torn from their containers. Soil was everywhere. The princess stood in the middle of the destruction, watching him with cold eyes. "Clean it," she said. Nathan nodded and began to work. He spent 6 hours putting the room back together. He swept the soil. He carefully replanted the flowers. He arranged the furniture exactly as it had been. Caleth watched him the entire time, sitting in a chair by the window, waiting for him to complain or show frustration. He did neither. When he finished, she looked around the room and said, "It was better before." "Then I will try harder tomorrow," Nathan replied. On the 5th day, Caleth stopped eating. She refused every meal Nathan brought her, pushing the trays away without looking at them. By the 2nd day of her hunger strike, Nathan understood what she was doing. She was testing him. She wanted to see how far he would go, how much he would beg. He did not beg. Instead, he simply left her favorite foods on a small table near her chair. He did not comment on them. He did not ask her to eat. He went about his other duties as if nothing was wrong. On the 3rd day of her fast, Caleth finally ate. She did it when she thought Nathan was not looking, but he saw. He said nothing. The Valorian guards found the whole situation amusing. They made jokes about the human who thought he could handle their princess. They placed bets on how long he would last. Most said 2 weeks. A few generous ones said a month. High Commander Zorath visited the quarters on the 10th day. He found Nathan organizing a shelf of Valorian texts while Caleth sat nearby, reading. "Still here, human?" Zorath asked. His voice was thick with disappointment. "Yes, Commander," Nathan said politely. Zorth looked at Keleth. "And how is your new attendant performing, Princess?" Keleth did not look up from her reading. "He is adequate." It was not praise, but it was not condemnation either, and Zorth clearly expected condemnation. He left without another word, his expression dark. That night, Ambassador Linda Morrison called Nathan to her office. She was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. She had been a diplomat for 30 years, and very little surprised her anymore. "How are you holding up?" she asked. Nathan sat down across from her. He was tired. His bones ached from the constant work, and his mind was weary from the constant tension. But he smiled. "I am fine, Ambassador." "You do not have to do this," Morrison said. "I can have you reassigned. No one would think less of you. 14 others have tried and failed. You owe nothing to anyone." Nathan shook his head. "I am not doing this for anyone else. I am doing it because it is the right thing to do." Morrison leaned back in her chair. "And what makes you think you can succeed where all those others failed?" Nathan thought for a moment before answering. "Because they were trying to survive her. I am trying to understand her." "Understand her?" "She is cruel, Nathan. She is cold and mean, and she treats everyone around her like they are beneath her." "Yes," Nathan agreed. "But have you ever asked yourself why?" Morrison was silent. "Someone taught her to be this way," Nathan continued. "Cruelty is not natural. It is learned. Every time she screams at me, every time she throws something or makes an impossible demand, I see the same thing. I see someone who is testing whether I will leave. Because everyone she has ever known has left." "You think she wants people to leave?" "I think she expects people to leave. And I think that expectation has become a self-fulfilling prophecy. She pushes people away because she believes they will leave anyway. At least this way, she controls the ending." Morrison studied him with new interest. "That is a very generous interpretation." "It is the only one that makes sense to me," Nathan said. "And until I am proven wrong, I will continue to treat her with patience and respect." He returned to his duties the next morning. Keleth was waiting for him with a new challenge. She had invited 3 Valorian nobles to visit, and she demanded that Nathan serve them all personally. The nobles were even worse than the princess. They mocked him openly, made jokes about human clumsiness, and deliberately spilled drinks so he would have to clean them up. One of them, a young male with cruel eyes, tried to trip Nathan as he walked past. Nathan did not fall. He simply stepped over the outstretched foot and continued on his way. When the nobles finally left, Keleth sat alone in her chair. She was quiet for a long time. "Why do you not fight back?" she finally asked. Nathan paused in his cleaning. "Would fighting back change anything?" "It would show that you have pride, that you are not just a servant." "I am a servant," Nathan said simply. "That is the role I was given. There is no shame in serving others. The shame would be in doing it badly." Keleth turned to look at him. Her violet eyes searched his face for something, though Nathan did not know what. "You are strange," she said. "All the others cried or begged or grew angry. You do none of these things. Would you prefer if I did?" She did not answer. Instead, she turned back to the window and stared out at the stars. That night, for the first time since Nathan had arrived, she did not wake him with demands. She let him sleep through the entire night. It was a small thing. But Nathan understood that small things were often the beginning of something larger. The next morning, when he brought her breakfast, she actually said thank you. Her voice was quiet, almost too quiet to hear. But Nathan heard it. He smiled and said, "You are welcome, princess." She looked away quickly, as if embarrassed by her own words. But Nathan had seen something in her eyes. Something that looked almost like hope. The guards and nobles could laugh all they wanted. The High Commander could scheme and plot. None of that mattered to Nathan, because for the first time, he knew he was making a difference. and that was worth any amount of difficulty. 1 month passed. Then 2. The bets among the Valorian guards had long since been settled, and new ones had been placed. Some now believed the human might actually survive a full year. Others thought it was only a matter of time before he broke. And Nathan did not break. And slowly, so slowly that it was almost invisible, things began to change. Caliph still gave orders. She still demanded things. But the edge in her voice had softened. She no longer threw objects or destroyed furniture. She no longer woke Nathan in the middle of the night just to watch him suffer. One evening, she asked him a question that had nothing to do with his duties. "Tell me about Earth," she said. Nathan looked up from the report he was organizing. Caliph was sitting by the window, her usual spot, but she was looking at him instead of the stars. "What would you like to know?" he asked. "Everything. I have heard that it is a primitive world, small, weak. Tell me if that is true." Nathan set down the reports and walked over to sit in the chair near her. It was the closest he had ever been to her without serving food or cleaning. "Earth is small," he admitted. "Compared to Valoria, it is very small. And by your standards, we are young. Your people have traveled the stars for thousands of years. We have only been doing it for a few generations. Then my people are correct. You are primitive." Nathan smiled. "Perhaps. But I grew up on a farm in Kansas. It was just me, my mother, and my grandmother. We did not have much money. Our house was old, and the winters were cold. By your standards, I suppose I was primitive too." Caliph said nothing, but she was listening. "My mother worked very hard," Nathan continued. "She woke before the sun and did not rest until after dark. But she never complained. And no matter how tired she was, she always found time to sit with me in the evening and talk. Talk about what? Life, people, how to treat others. She used to say that being kind costs nothing, but its value is beyond measure." Caliph made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Your mother sounds like a fool. Kindness is weakness. It invites others to take advantage of you." "Many people believe that," Nathan agreed. "But I watched my mother live her entire life by that principle, and I never saw anyone take advantage of her. Instead, I saw people respect her, trust her, love her. Love." Caliph repeated the word like it was foreign to her. "Yes, love. Have you never experienced it?" The question hung in the air between them. For a long moment, Caliph did not answer. Then she turned back to the window. "Valorian royalty does not love," she said quietly. "We form alliances. We produce heirs. But love is considered a weakness. It makes you vulnerable." Nathan thought about this. "That sounds lonely. It is necessary. Those are not the same thing." Caliph was silent for a long time after that. When she finally spoke again, her voice was different, softer, almost fragile. "The guards mock you, you know? They think you are pathetic for staying here and serving me." "I know," Nathan said. "Does it not bother you?" "No. Their opinion of me does not change who I am. I know my own worth. That is enough." Caliph looked at him with an expression he could not read. "You are very strange, Nathan Cole." It was the first time she had used his name. 2 weeks later, Caliph fell ill. It started as a simple cough, but within hours she had developed a high fever. Her silver-blue skin became pale and damp with sweat. She could barely stand. Nathan called for the Valorian doctors. They came, examined her briefly, and declared that it was a minor illness. They gave her some medication and left, barely spending 10 minutes in her presence. "It will pass," they said. "She just needs rest." But Nathan watched Caliph shiver in her bed, and he knew it was more than minor. Her breathing was shallow. Her eyes, when she opened them, were dull and unfocused. He stayed by her side. For 36 hours, Nathan did not sleep. He brought cold claws to press against her forehead. He made sure she drank water, even when she could barely swallow. He sat beside her bed and talked to her, even when she was too weak to respond. He read to her from a book of human poetry that he had brought from Earth. The words were simple, about nature and hope and the passing of seasons. He did not know if she could hear him, but he read anyway. On the second night, her fever finally broke. Nathan was half asleep in his chair when he heard her voice. "You are still here." He opened his eyes. Caliph was looking at him with something close to wonder. "Of course I am," he said. "You stayed with me." "The whole time?" "Yes. Why?" Nathan leaned forward and took her hand. It was a bold gesture, something that a servant should never do. But in that moment, he was not a servant. He was simply a person caring for another person. "Because you needed someone," he said. "And I was here." Caliph's eyes filled with tears. It was the first time Nathan had ever seen her cry. The tears rolled down her silver blue cheeks like tiny rivers. "I am sorry," she whispered. "For what?" "For how I have treated you. For the things I said. For everything." Nathan squeezed her hand gently. "There is nothing to forgive. You did what you thought you had to do. But you do not have to do it anymore." Caliph closed her eyes. When she opened them again, there was something new in them. Something that looked like the beginning of trust. "Stay," she said. "Please." "I am not going anywhere," Nathan promised. And he meant it. Over the following days, as Caliph recovered, everything changed. She began to smile. Small smiles that came and went quickly, but were real. She asked Nathan more questions about Earth, about his family, about human customs. She started saying please and thank you without being reminded. She stopped ordering him and started asking him. The guards noticed. The nobles noticed. High Commander Zorath noticed that something was happening that none of them had expected. The spoiled princess was changing. And it was all because of one stubborn human who had refused to give up. High Commander Zorath was not a patient man. He had designed the cultural exchange program as a trap, a way to embarrass humanity and prove once and for all that humans were inferior to Valorians. But 3 months had passed, and his trap had failed. The human was still there. Worse, rumors had begun to spread through the station. People whispered that Princess Caliph was different now. Softer. Some even said she had been seen laughing. Actually laughing in the presence of her human attendant. This could not continue. Zorath called a formal review. He summoned Nathan to appear before the Valorian High Council, a group of 12 elders who advised the Emperor on all important matters. The council rarely met for something as small as an attendant review, but Zorath had insisted. He claimed it was a matter of diplomatic importance. Nathan stood in the center of the great council chamber. The room was massive, with high ceilings and walls covered in ancient Valorian symbols. The 12 council members sat in elevated chairs, looking down at him like judges examining a criminal. Zorath stood to one side, his scarred face twisted with barely hidden satisfaction. "Human," Zorath began. "You were assigned to serve Princess Caliph Varana 3 months ago. In that time, numerous complaints have been filed regarding your performance." Nathan said nothing. He had learned that silence was often the wisest response. "You have been disrespectful to Valorian nobles," Zorath continued. "You have ignored proper protocols. You have overstepped your boundaries as a servant. May I ask who filed these complaints?" Nathan asked calmly. Zorath's eyes narrowed. "That is not your concern." "With respect, Commander, if I'm being accused of wrongdoing, I believe I have the right to know who is accusing me." One of the council elders, an ancient Valorian with faded blue skin, raised a hand. "The human makes a fair point. "Who are the complainants, Commander Zorth?" Zorth hesitated. The truth was that there were no formal complaints. He had made them up, expecting no one to question him. "The complaints were submitted anonymously," he finally said, "for the protection of those involved." Nathan could see several council members exchange glances. They did not believe Zorth any more than Nathan did. "Regardless," Zorth pressed on, "it is clear that this human is not suited for his position. He lacks the discipline and respect required to serve Valorian royalty. I move that he be removed immediately and returned to his human superiors in disgrace." "Disgrace?" The voice came from the back of the chamber. Everyone turned. Princess Kalith Vorana walked into the council room. She was dressed in formal Valorian attire, silver robes that flowed around her like water. Her violet eyes were bright and sharp, and she moved with the confidence of someone who knew exactly who she was. The council members rose to their feet. Even Zorth was forced to bow. "Princess," the ancient elder said, "this is an unexpected honor. We were not informed you would be attending." "I was not planning to attend," Kalith said, "but I heard that my attendant was being put on trial, and I felt it necessary to speak on his behalf." Zoreth's face went pale. "Princess, there is no need. This is a simple administrative matter." "Then you will not mind if I provide my perspective," Kalith said. It was not a question. She walked to the center of the chamber and stood beside Nathan. For a moment, she looked at him, and he saw something in her eyes that he had never seen before. Gratitude, respect, perhaps even affection. Then she turned to face the council. "I have had 14 attendants before Nathan Cole," she said. "Each one left within weeks. Some cried. Some begged. Some simply disappeared in the middle of the night. I drove them all away because that is what I was taught to do." The council members listened in silence. "From the time I was a child, I was raised in isolation," Kalith continued. "I was taught that connection was weakness, that trusting others would only lead to betrayal, that the only way to survive was to be cold, to be cruel, to push everyone away before they could hurt me." She paused, and her voice grew stronger. "I believed those lessons. I lived by them. And I was miserable. Every day of my life, I was surrounded by people who feared me or hated me, and I told myself that was how it had to be. That was the price of being royalty." Nathan watched her speak. He had never heard her talk about her past before. Every word seemed to cost her something. "Then they sent me Nathan Cole," Kalith said. "A human. A species that my people consider inferior. I expected him to fail like all the others. I wanted him to fail because his failure would prove that I was right. That connection was impossible. That no one could ever truly care for me." She turned to look at Nathan directly. But he did not fail. When I screamed at him, he did not cower. When I threw things at him, he did not run. When I treated him like dirt beneath my feet, he responded with patience and kindness. He saw something in me that I could not see in myself. Kalith faced the council again. "This man stayed by my side for 36 hours when I was sick. He read to me. He held my hand. Not because it was his duty, but because he cared. No one in my entire life has ever done that for me. No one." The chamber was completely silent. "You ask if Nathan Cole has failed in his duties," Kalith said. "I tell you that he has succeeded beyond any measure I could have imagined. He did not just serve me. He showed me what it means to be treated with genuine compassion. He showed me that the lessons I learned as a child were wrong." She pointed at Zorth. "This review was not called because of any complaints. It was called because High Commander Zorth wanted to humiliate humanity. He gave me a human attendant expecting me to destroy him. Instead, that human showed me that strength is not about cruelty. It is about patience. It is about caring for others, even when they make it difficult." Zorath opened his mouth to protest, but the ancient elder raised a hand for silence. "Princess Calith," the elder said, "your words are clear. Do you vouch for this human?" "I do," Calith said without hesitation. "More than that, I ask that this council recognize Nathan Cole for his exceptional service. He has done more for the relationship between our peoples than any diplomat or commander." The council members conferred quietly among themselves. Then the ancient elder nodded. "This review is concluded. Nathan Cole is found to have performed his duties admirably. He shall continue in his position with our full support." Zorath's face was dark with rage, but there was nothing he could do. The council had spoken as they left the chamber together. Calith walked beside Nathan instead of ahead of him. It was a small gesture, but it meant everything. "Thank you," Nathan said quietly. Calith smiled. It was a real smile, warm and genuine. "No," she said. "Thank you for seeing me when no one else would." 6 months had passed since the council review. In that time, everything had changed. Princess Calith Vorana was no longer known as the impossible royal that everyone feared. She was now known as something else entirely, a bridge between worlds. Using her position and influence, she had established the first real cultural exchange program between humans and Valorians. Not the fake one that Zorath had created, but a genuine effort to bring the two peoples together. Human teachers came to Valorian stations to share their knowledge. Valorian scientists visited Earth to study its unique biology. Young people from both species met and formed friendships that would have been unthinkable just a year ago. And through it all, Nathan Cole remained at Calith's side. His role had evolved over the months. He was no longer just an attendant. He had become an advisor, a friend, and something else that neither of them could quite name. The Valorian guards no longer mocked him. Instead, they treated him with respect, even admiration. The human who had been given an impossible task had not only survived, but had thrived. One evening, Nathan and Calith stood together on an observation deck, watching a Valorian ship dock with a human transport. The two vessels locked together smoothly, a symbol of the cooperation that was growing between their peoples. "My father wants to meet you," Calith said. Nathan looked at her in surprise. "The Emperor?" "Yes. He has heard about what you have done, about how you have changed things here. He wants to thank you personally." Nathan shook his head slowly. "I did not do anything special. I just treated you like a person." Calith smiled. That is exactly what was special about it. They stood in comfortable silence for a while, watching the stars. "Can I ask you something?" Calith said. "Of course. Why did you never give up on me?" "In the beginning, when I was at my worst, any sane person would have left." Nathan thought about the question. He had asked himself the same thing many times. "My grandmother used to tell me something," he finally said. She said that every person carries invisible wounds. Some people wear their wounds on the outside, where everyone can see them. But the deepest wounds are hidden. They come out as anger, as cruelty, as pushing people away. Calith listened without interrupting. "When I first met you, I saw your wounds," Nathan continued. "I saw someone who had been hurt so badly that she had built walls around herself to keep from being hurt again. And I understood that the cruelty was not really who you were. It was just the armor you wore. How could you see that when no one else did?" Nathan smiled. "Maybe because I know what it feels like to wear armor. After my mother died, I spent years pushing people away. I told myself I did not need anyone. It took a long time before I learned that being strong does not mean being alone." Calith reached over and took his hand. It was a gesture that would have been unthinkable when they first met. "Thank you," she said, "for seeing past my armor. Thank you for letting me in." The day of the joint assembly arrived. Humans and Valorians gathered together in the largest hall on Nexus Prime. ambassadors, commanders, scientists, and ordinary citizens from both species filled the seats. It was the largest gathering of its kind in history. Princess Keleth stood at the podium, looking out at the assembled crowd. Nathan stood in the audience, watching with quiet pride. 6 months ago, Keleth began, my people attempted something cruel. They gave a human an impossible task. They assigned him to serve me, knowing that I had driven away everyone who had ever tried. They expected him to fail. They wanted him to fail, because his failure would prove their beliefs about human weakness. The crowd was silent, listening. Instead, that human taught me something that I will carry for the rest of my life. He taught me that true strength is not found in weapons or ships or power. True strength is found in the ability to care for others, even when it is difficult. Especially when it is difficult. Keleth paused and looked directly at Nathan and the crowd. Humans have a quality that we Valorians do not fully understand. They call it compassion. We dismissed it as weakness, as a flaw in their character. But we were wrong. Compassion is their greatest strength. It allows them to see past anger and cruelty. It allows them to find the good in others, even when that good is deeply hidden. She turned back to the full assembly. Today, I stand before you not as a princess giving a speech, but as a person who was changed by the kindness of one human. Nathan Cole did not conquer me with force. He did not defeat me with cleverness. He simply refused to give up on me, even when I gave him every reason to. Cal's voice grew stronger. That is what it means to be human. They do not see difficult people as enemies to be defeated. They see them as individuals worth understanding. And in that understanding, they find a path to peace that weapons could never achieve. She stepped back from the podium. We gave them a challenge, expecting them to fail. Instead, they showed us a better way. Let us learn from their example. The applause started slowly, then grew until it filled the entire hall. Humans and Valorians stood together, cheering for a message of hope and connection. Nathan did not join the applause. He simply stood there, tears running down his face, watching the woman who had once been called spoiled and impossible now become a symbol of change. After the assembly, Keleth found him standing alone on the observation deck again. She walked up beside him and looked out at the stars. You are crying, she said. Yes, Nathan admitted. Why? He wiped his eyes and smiled. Because my mother would have been proud. Keleth took his hand again. This time, she did not let go. What happens now? She asked. Nathan looked at her, at the stars, at the future stretching out before them. Now we keep going, he said. Together. And that is exactly what they did, in the years that followed. The partnership between humans and Valorians grew stronger. There were challenges, of course. Old prejudices did not disappear overnight. But every time someone doubted that the two species could truly work together, they were reminded of the story of Princess Keleth and the human, who refused to give up. It was a story that would be told for generations. Not a story of war or conquest, but a story of patience, understanding, and the extraordinary power of simply being kind. High Commander Zorath was eventually removed from his position. He spent his remaining years bitter and alone, never understanding what had happened. He had given humanity their spoiled princess as a challenge, and their reaction had truly been unexpected. They had not tried to break her or control her or escape from her. They had simply loved her. And in the end, that made all the difference.